You've raised the issue of recurrent expenditure in governments at least twice within the past 5 minutes or thereabout. That's an issue of concern, clearly, to you and to many people who understand the history of such stuff in Nigeria. Every budget always has a very huge, very bloated recurrent expenditure at the detriment of capital investments and all of that. So how do we dance around this, both at the federal, but more especially at the state government levels? In which way do you think governments can bring down the cost of recurrent expenditure without hampering without touching job losses, one, and secondly, every state in Nigeria has one mineral deposit or another that's huge, yet remain untapped. This, if plowed into, could greatly increase their expenditure. What do you say about these two things?
No, I agree with you. I think recurrent expenditure is a big issue. And the recurrent expenditure has two components. There is the personnel cost, which is salaries and wages, and there is the overhead cost, which is the day-to-day cost of running the government. Now, I believe, as we have seen in Kaduna State, for instance, and in many other states, there is room for reform and drastic reduction in both components. I believe that we have many people that are working in the government that are not needed. On the other hand, we have needs for skills like teachers, health workers that we don't have enough of. So there is a need to trade that off. Okay? It is not possible, with the greatest respect, to have our cake and eat it. We cannot employ everyone we want to employ, pay them whatever that is right, fair, and just, and still have resources available to do other things, because our resources are limited. Okay? So we have to strike a balance. We have to sit down with labor unions and have a very mature conversation about the size of the public service, the kind of government that is lean and fit for purpose. And we have to have a sensible conversation about that puts the state and national interest ahead of any narrow interest. So that is on personnel costs. Now, on overhead, there is room for reduction. There is a lot of waste in the government. There is too much traveling. There is too much. There are too many conferences discussing over and over issues that are settled. What Nigeria needs is not more conferences and more discussion, but implementing already agreed policies. And in any government department you go to, there is hardly any new problem that has not been studied in the past. There is some report in the drawer. We don't need to be doing too many conferences. We don't need to be traveling too much. All these investment summits that we go to foreign countries, they are a total waste of time. If you want to do investment summits, do them within Nigeria, invite the investors to come here. So there is room to reduce that. We can reduce the number of aides we have. We can reduce the number of ministries. We can do all that, and the recurrent component can reduce. Okay, I will give you just one example. In 2015, when we came into office, the recurrent budget of the government house, just the government house, the seat of government in Kaduna State, was 2.1 billion. 2.1 billion. The next budget cycle, our first zero-based budget, we reduced it to slightly above 500 million. And we didn't starve. It has gone up a little bit because of inflation and so on, but we have still maintained it. So this is the issue. There is a lot of waste that can be reduced. Then there is the matter of security vote. People talk about security vote thinking that it is the pocket money of governors. It is not. The security vote is an amount set aside to support security agencies, to buy logistics, vehicles and logistics for them, and a lot of it is used for that purpose. Yes, I know that some of my colleagues may abuse it, but most of what is voted for security goes to the security agencies. In Kaduna, we have records, we get people to sign, we don't take security vote and give people to put in their pocket. So again, we can look at that and find ways to reduce it. Now, why do you need security vote? Because the federal government does not support its agencies, the police and other security agencies, as it should. So the state governments end up carrying a lot of the running costs of these agencies, from civil defense to police, Even the military, we support the military sometimes. So there is that as well. Now, you asked a question. How can we develop our economies and diversify away from reliance on Federation account and oil? Yes, Nigeria is endowed with natural resources. We have minerals and so on and so forth. But development of mineral resources is not done in 1 year. I will give you just one example. In Kaduna, we have lots of minerals. We found, an Australian company found the purest form of nickel in world history in Kaduna State, in Dangoma in Kaduna State. And it's proven reserve, but it's taken them more than 3 years to raise the investment to come and mine this nickel. It's there, it's available, it's 93% nickel, but it's taken them 3 years. And this is a reputable company from Australia. Why? Because Nigeria is not yet seen as a major mining destination. The major mining companies have not established any confidence or track record in Nigeria. So a lot of work needs to be done. So even if you find minerals, we have gold in Kaduna. We are investing to mine our gold. Apart from the artisanal miners and some Chinese entrepreneurs that are doing illegal mining, we have gold. But to develop it takes a few years. We have been told by experts that it takes about 8 years from decision to actual export of some of these minerals. So it requires a medium-term strategy and focus. And with the election cycles we have, 4-year election cycles, it's difficult to focus on that. There is a need to do that. We are working with the Ministry of Solid Minerals to do that. We are proposing amendments to the Constitution to vest most of these minerals and powers on the states so that the states can, take charge of their destiny. Because right now, even if you have minerals in your state, you can't do anything because all minerals belong to the federal government. So you have to go through the federal government, and you can only develop these minerals at the pace of the federal government.
Let me take it from where Governor Yari was speaking, Your Excellency, where he says that he also was part of those who said, look, governors struggle to pay salaries. So if they struggle to pay salaries, they rely on 1, 2, 3 bailouts from government. How come he says it's absolutely necessary that they have to fly private jets?
Well, it's not, first of all, there are 36 governors in Nigeria. It's not all governors that travel by private jet. Some can afford it, some cannot. And there are times when circumstances force you, you have competing engagements that are critical and there is no commercial flight, and you take private jets. But it's not like, Nigerian governors are always in private jets and so on. I travel commercial most of the time. Anytime I need to travel, I travel commercial. But if I have to go to Osun State and do one event and come back because I'm expecting the president the next day, I may have to pay for a private jet. I think that those that use this private jet thing as to indicate wasteful spending or living large by governors are not being fair to all of us. First, the behavior of a few cannot be used to frame all of us. Secondly, some of us, even if we want to fly private jets, cannot afford it. Lagos can, Rivers has its own, Rivers State has its own private jets, and some of the oil-producing states can, but many of the other states struggle. And when you see a governor traveling on private jets, it is probably totally necessary because of some kind of competing engagements. Can we do better? Yes, I believe so. I think that the searchlight on governors and the conduct of governors and how we live our lives is very, very, very high, and I think we should all reconsider. And
let me add this, because we need to wind down
and try to.
All right, just a moment, Your Excellency. Why is it that we haven't seen any statements from Nigeria Governors Forum, but we've seen that of the Progressives Governors Forum?
That is because the Nigerian Governors Forum consists of a larger club of governors, and we do not, it cannot issue a statement until we sit with all the governors. The Progressive Governors Forum consists of just the APC governors, so it's easier to collect us, and we have compared notes, and we authorize our Director General to issue that statement. Indeed, we hope that as soon as we have the NGF meeting, the NGF will also take a formal position.
We need to wrap up in just a moment, as soon as possible. But speaking about long-term solution, Do you subscribe to the school of thought that this will have to review the revenue formula for this to have at least a sort of permanent solution?
Absolutely. I think that, two things must be done. And I think that even when the memo was presented to the National Economic Council, the governors proposed that we should look at new revenue sources. Okay, one of the new revenue sources is to look at the revenue allocation formula and, restructure it in favor of the states. This is all part of the restructuring agenda, which our party, the APC, set up a committee which I chaired that, made recommendation that the party has more or less adopted. So that is one issue. But the other more important issue for me is that we must find a way to raise more taxes rather than rely on transfers from the Federation account. We must raise taxes, and to raise taxes, we need to have better data. We need to know individuals that live in our states, what they do for a living, and ensure that everyone makes a contribution. A tax is not a burden. It's a small contribution towards the provision of services. And I think if we sell it in that way and we collect 500 naira from everyone with a shop in the market and so on and so forth, it all adds up. So,
all right,
yes, revenue allocation formula, look at that, but taxes. Taxes are the key. We must be able to run our governments from internally generated revenue so that whatever comes from federal government as federation account should go towards capital projects. All
right, one other point. We thank you very much indeed for talking to us today. We've been speaking with His Excellency Nasir El-Rufai, Governor of Kaduna State. And that's the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Gimba Umar.
And I'm Ayo. Makinde, have a good weekend.